Hi, Mike.
Hello, May. Thank you for taking the time this morning. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Now, I just saw how you spell your name. What's your nationality here?
My father is from Taiwan. He immigrated here in 1964.
Okay.
Yeah, and never went back.
I knew there was some Chinese blood in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, he landed in L.A. in the mid-'60s and got off that plane and said, I'm never going back.
I know that feeling because my mother left China, and, they came by boat because they much earlier.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they came by boat. Military boat came over, so that was it. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to have another peer, somebody that, that's Chinese that's doing this.
Absolutely. And you cover that in the documentary, your parents coming over, and your father was very much like my grandfather, where it was, he needed a son, but he had three of them. So he only paid attention to the older son and not so much my dad and his brother, so you know how that goes.
I know how that goes. And it's really, it affects everyone when you start to see it. My father did not accept me till almost a few months before he died. And I was already in my 30s.
Wow.
So
yeah.
Girls were not, my father, everybody used to say to my father, you have aren't you going to go see your wife in the hospital? And he goes, why? It's a girl. That's all she gave.
Yeah.
What do I care?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was like that sometimes.
Yes, and and I'm hoping to always change the narrative with my kids, and say that it doesn't work this way.
Right.
Women and men are equal. That is it. Without the women, I always say this. If what's that old adage? They said behind every successful man is a great woman behind it. And they're pushing it. They're doing it. So
and this is kind of what this documentary is about. It's about the two women that were, or three, I guess I should be fair, three women that were behind John Lennon. And you were there at arguably maybe his most successful period as far as music goes. Mind Games and Walls and Bridges, two of his...
Right, and rock and roll. This year is 50 years when we started this. Yeah, I know it sounds so wild to me when I say it, but it is 50 years ago now, this time period when all this started.
Has Yoko Ono contacted you about this documentary? Because it really doesn't make her out to be a very good person.
No, not at all. I've run into her many years ago. The first time after 20 years, I ran into her in Iceland by pure accident. We happened to be in the same hotel in Iceland, and I really have seen her maybe 2 or 3 times. That's about it over the years.
Because it also changes a little bit the legend of what John called his lost weekend in little bits, like, where Yoko told you have to be John's girlfriend, but she didn't kick him out or send him to L.A. He kind of went on his own and took you with him, and that happened organically.
Right.
And it changes a lot. So I'm trying to figure, has she seen it yet? Did you have to clear stuff with her? Did she try to stop this from being released?
Nothing.
Okay.
This was all done above board, and it was all, it was checked, obviously. I would never want to do something that's going to make it so that, things happen. So, yes, everything was done above board, and it is my story. That was the whole thing. That I always had the right to always tell my story, and these are things that actually happened. It's not a made-up situation. It was the reason I did this. I got tired of people saying, they were erasing me out of my own history. And people were telling me about my own history, and they go, I know everything about you. And I said, I don't think so. And they said, oh, yeah. And they would argue with me about my own time, 50 years in between, and then they're still doing it. It's getting worse. So I said, all right. So the whole thing is that when people have seen the movie, they all come back and they all say, I thought I knew your movie. I thought I know your life. I didn't know anything about half the things you said in there. I didn't know anything.
Do you still believe that Yoko had somehow brainwashed John or had him under some kind of influence?
It only only leads. I can only say from my side what I had experienced, and it does. Otherwise, nothing made sense. You know, when somebody goes back and we're about to go and buy a house, we're about to go down to New Orleans to see Paul and Linda, where he wanted to think about writing with Paul again, and everything just stops. So something happened, and so you can only suspect what may have gone on.
Sounds to me like you're implying that Yoko may have been keeping Paul and John from rekindling their relationship. And do you think that was the same thing for John's son Julian? Because you have, which is one of the best parts of this documentary, I think, you were instrumental in reconnecting him with his son from his first marriage. Was that something Yoko didn't want to happen?
Well, you know, I can only say, you know, what happened to me when he used to call and I wasn't allowed to give John the call.
Yeah.
You know, all the calls were vetted by Yoko first, and then I had to tell him that John wasn't there, and I couldn't tell John. That's something that I don't have to live with in the sense of I didn't try to stop it. I only had to stop it in the sense of that was my job at that moment.
Right. That's one of the more shocking parts, I think, of this documentary was the whole running the calls by Yoko and her not letting him talk to his son. And then you say that John, maybe, you didn't say it exactly, but maybe he knew that was happening?
Not really. He had no idea. It had been 3 years since he had seen his son.
Because in that section of the
thing,
that section of the documentary, because he asks you how many times has he called.
He don't know. She said the part was, has he called before?
Right.
Is this the first time?
Okay.
And I said yes. And obviously, I have no idea. We never talked about it again, so I can't tell you if he knew.
Okay.
You know, so I can't say he knew that was the answer. So I really don't know.
Now, also, you were with him at a time, the actual Lost Weekend part of this, where he was in L.A. recording, and he was hanging out with Alice Cooper and Mickey Dolenz and Keith Moon and some other people, otherwise known as the Hollywood Vampires, at the Rainbow Bar. And now the Hollywood Vampires are a band put together by Alice Cooper. And I know that you were friendly with Alice also.
Yes.
What do you think about him going out with this band, Hollywood Vampires?
You know, we talked about it, and it was just kind of, we said, hey, it's fun. It's for a fun time. And it's so well known. It's, you know, it's that imprint. You go, okay, it's the Hollywood Vampires. Let's go out. Let's see who's going to be performing, you know? Because John was an honorary member. He was not in the band, as everybody else may think. But if he was in town, he was welcome. And then, of course, you know, it was a lot of different things, and Alice was talking to Johnny Depp about it. And that's how this whole thing started to come up again, you know. So I think it's, you know, back then there was also a lot of fun, no matter what. But you get caught in the press, whoever you are. You know, if you're famous, you're out there. And it's even more so today. It's like you can't make a move any which way.
Well, the documentary is The Lost Weekend, a love story. It's your time with John Lennon by you. So you're trying to clear some of the legend around that story, and it's a great watch. It's really great because there's a lot of photographs people may have never seen before, especially taken by you or home video type of stuff or interviews like with Alice Cooper, like with Paul McCartney, and the beautiful scene with you. I don't want to give anything away. They talk to Julian Lennon a lot, but it's a great, I think, you know, near the end, you know what I'm talking about. I think that's just beautiful.
Yes, I know. And I think people should go and see, and they will understand. There's a lot of, I was clearing up a lot of things because there's so much myth out there because everybody wants to say they know me. They need to see this.
Well, May Pang, it's been an honor and a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for the time, and it's a great documentary, and good luck.